Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in, coming back and watching. I appreciate it. Hope you're having a super awesome day. And I've got a photo here that I just created, kind of a fantasy, I'll call it Middle Earth kind of thing. And I read those books, saw those movies, loved it. Although that genre is not something I really read a lot. I loved the Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. But the best book, of course, is The Name of the Wind. That is my favorite book, favorite author, most awesome story of all time. And it's got a little bit of that fantasy realm thing going on as well. Anyway, one of the things I like to do is, of course, create that kind of moody, fantasy, kind of Middle-earth look in photos. So when I was in, where was I? This was in the Cotswolds. And there was a little town that had this really cool, let me show you. Here we go. So I had read like in a guidebook or something that there was this cool church door that had these two trees growing around it, and I was like, I got to get there and I got to see that. Stuff like that is just really cool to me. It's just something we don't have in Texas, I guess. So whenever I get a chance to see this kind of stuff, I jump at it. So I went and saw this. As you can see, the light was terrible, and I didn't care because honestly, A, I wanted to see it, and B, I knew I was going to make a fantasy-looking sort of thing out of it. So I made it into that. In Luminar, of course, lots of just little fun stuff, and just kind of jacked around because all I wanted to do is create like this fantasy kind of realm look where, you know, it's almost like that light is like a beacon in the darkness and it's leading you to the church, which is a sanctuary. Anyway, it's just too cool of a scene not to make something out of it. So let me reset these and I'll walk through the workflow. Okay, so here I am with raw develop. There's the before and after. You can see I did little lens distortion, made some adjustments, temperature tint, bumped up contrast, took down highlights, added some clarity. Kind of simple stuff. All I'm doing is setting the stage. Next was a little saturation and vibrance, a little bit of a tweak there. I actually went next for a vignette just to darken those edges and start to pull in that light because as you saw in the final product, it's a whole lot darker and moodier than my initial starting point, which is, I think it was mid-morning or something. So, the light was terrible. Did a little color work and color balance. So I'm just kind of running through these to show you what I did as opposed to like resetting all the filters. Here, a tiny bit on midtones and a little bit on highlights. Again, just balancing colors and light. Image radiance and Orton, which creates a little bit of that moodiness and a little bit of that shadow. You can see that made a big impact, and that's where I'm starting to get kind of into that fantasy realm, and those are two filters I use a lot when I'm creating this kind of mood in a photo. I did add sun rays, much to many people's chagrin. I like that filter. I mean, obviously when it first came out, it got used a lot, and I think people kind of burned out on it, but in situations like this, I think it works well because I'm lighting up that light. And I just think it helps. And that's really part of the point of this photo is this creation of my photo. I should say that, you have that light. I wanted to turn it on because I'm creating a dark, moody photo. And I want that source of light, as I said, like it's a beacon in the darkness, leading you to the sanctuary. And the next was dodge and burn, which, I don't use a whole lot. But as you can see, I really went through and covered up a number of the edges. And at this point, I was like, I'm kind of getting there. I like it, but there's still some things that need to be done. It's too bright over here. It's too bright over there. There's too much sunlight coming in, and it doesn't look like a beacon in the darkness if you've got the sunlight coming in as strongly as I do. So next I went and just did clone and stamp, and that was just right here on this right-hand side. I just took that section out where it was bright and just completely darkened it. And next, I'm going to go into this adjustment layer. I actually started with a vignette, and so again, just pulling in the light a little bit, and that allowed me to kind of darken the edges a little bit. It's not significant. I'm not sure how well you can tell, but there's before and there's after. So also did use a little bit of inner light. So again, darkening the edges. I want to create more brightness in the center of the photo around the door. That's clearly the subject. Also, I want it to, further appear as though this beacon of light, if you will, is lighting up the door. So next was tone, a little contrast, and took down smart tone. And you can see it's just starting to adjust the light. Here I did a little negative saturation and vibrance just on that tile because it was getting really too blue. So I just reduced the saturation and vibrance and then took a brush and painted it in. There you can see kind of purple, pinky blue. Not really the look I want. And there it is now, just regular stone color. Here I went in and took the structure filter and increased the structure in the center of the photo. So you can just see I painted it in there simply just to say, hey, I want to crunch that up a little bit, and I think that helps a little bit with the visibility. Next was a exposure reduction, and I did this across the photo there on the right hand side and there on the left hand side. Let me remove that mask. You can see I just darkened those up a bit. Again, they were just too bright. Let me show you the before. Right? Just too bright, too much sunlight coming in, and I think now it looks a little bit better. Again, this is not perfect. I'm creating a fantasy realm kind of thing. And then last was dodge and burn, where I went in and did some more of that kind of light maneuvering and moving that light around. So there's before, and this was mostly around the door, right? I think I darkened it there and lightened it there a little bit. And after, yeah, you can kind of see how that worked. And that was really it. I mean, it was just a bunch of filters. It's just a bunch of experimentation, but it allowed me to go from a daytime it's a boring shot. I just took the photo because I knew I wanted to have a photo of that door because it's just too cool. And after, where I created a lot more of a darker edges, brighter center, and it's really, I've kind of gone from day to night in some ways, right? Bright daytime mid-morning shot into now a moodier, darker shot where it's just creating a bit of a fantasy kind of look. That was it. It's just fun, a little workflow video for you today. One more time, before and after, and the sliding view of things. You can see we came a long way, and it's really just about stacking filters and staying at it and using different layers. Sometimes I'll do things like I did on the base layer, and I feel like I got to a pretty good point. And then I went and got clone and stamp, and then I was like, well, I don't think I'm done because this layer, let me turn off this top layer. There I was before. I liked it, but again, too bright in some places, and it doesn't really sell it, if you will. And I feel like I've got a much better control over the light. So that's kind of what I do. I'll stack another layer and just come back at it with new filters and new adjustments just to try to get to my final product. One more time, before and after. Just a fun workflow. I hope it gives you some ideas for creating looks of your own. And thanks for watching, my friends. I appreciate it. Hope you're having a super awesome day. I'll see you soon. Take care and adios.